My name is Ivy. I was just your normal 13-year-old girl back then. I have a sister named Hazel. We're named after flowers because our mom owned a big flower shop in town. She would sell all the flowers you can name: roses, ivies, sunflowers, cacti, Venus flytraps, lilies, daisies, dahlias. You name it, she most likely had it. I was 6 years old when Hazel was born. She was not the brightest flower, but she had determination for anything she set her mind to. No wall too tall, no lake too deep. She did what she wanted. I was sent to a child ward last month due to constant night terrors. Not nightmares, but night terrors. I would wake up in a cold sweat and crying my eyes out as snot followed suit. It would take my mom and dad ages to calm me down as Hazel just stood in shock. And in these dreams, I'd see a strange man. His face sagged to his belly, his skin was an almost palish green color. His eyes were dark voids of thoughts beyond my imagination. His voice sounded like a dried-up smoker. Every breath was extremely long, and he'd breathe between each vowel. But he would always say the same thing in each dream. I've heard it so many times I can remember it word for word.
Children who want dark desires will seek a dark reward. Only then shall we want to drown in the door of hate. Come hold my hand, and let me take you to the highs of dreams. We shall dance on graves of the sin till our legs snap. Come drift away from your world, and let me lift your hatred away. The faraway drifts near. Tread long, then sink deep. Two floats from one, and here is all again. Here.
I never knew what it meant, but he always said this every time. I left the ward after I had my family visit, and I told them about the weird stuff my therapist did. He'd hook me up to weird machines and always ask me about this ferryman, never about my nightmares or the things I saw. When I told my mom about the time he started shaking me when I was crying really bad about one of my nightmares, when I told her, I had never heard her scream at anyone until that day. Today's nightmare would be the last. The last time I would see my world. The last time I'd see my hometown the way it was. The last time I'd see Hazel smile. The last time Ma and Pa would tuck me in a warm blanket. The last time I'd ever smell the flowers near my window. The last time I'd ever see my world. I woke up in a large, empty void. There was a light and a purple fog. There, that ferryman sat. His silhouette stood like moldy stone. I didn't move because I feared what would happen to me. I could see that his skin was seemingly wet. Was he sweating? Was it wet here? But the air is cold, so there's no way he's warm. I looked down and saw that I had water up to my ankles. But the water itself was like a tar. I couldn't see anything beneath it, but yet it had the consistency of water. Suddenly, I felt a tug under me. I realized the ground was moving, and water flew around me as I was dragged towards the ferryman. My hair was now drenched with water, and my back was just soaking wet. Whatever dragged me right next to his feet. He stood over me like a skyscraper. I could feel slight drops of rain hit my pale skin, but the rain was not falling. It was rising from the ground. It would tap my skin as the rest flew to freedom, like a bird flying from a frozen lake. That purple light behind him seemed so far, yet so close. It felt right behind him, but yet miles ahead. His deep, gravelly voice spoke, but not with his usual riddle.
Do you wish for me to leave you be?
It had always talked to me, but it never asked me or expected me to talk back. It would just stare with its empty, rotten eyes. It repeated, sounding a little more angry.
Do you wish for me to leave you be?
I began to scream at a being which couldn't hear it. My screaming crawled into his ears and now his soulless eyes. All you've done is make me have night terrors. You made me go to that crazy doctor. I haven't slept because of you. You stupid fat freak. Just leave me alone. Just get out of my head, you stupid cad. His voice spoke again, now oddly calmer. It felt too calm to be normal.
If you want me to stop, get on my ferry.
Just then, out of the ankle-high water, rose a ferry. Water splashed and tossed as it rose. He got on the ferry, not even waiting for it to dry, just a little. The boat made a horrid creak as his large body entered it. Water splashed out the boat's sides as his wide knees folded. I wondered just how it could even support his weight. But my wonder was eventually snapped away when he began to stare, which spoke words without real ones. I did as he whispered through his eyes, and got in. The purple got larger and larger as we went along our way. The reverse rain formed a wall where droplets would fly and hit my hair. A faint music could be heard in the seemingly endless void. It sounded like one of those old music boxes you could buy from those old shops. Ma and Pa got me one a while back to try to help me with my night terrors and help Hazel sleep. It never did work. The nightmares just kept coming. The rain seemed to slowly stop more and more as we went, letting the music raise its voice as the rain slowly became a soft whisper. The rain that would build around the sides like walls slowly collapsed. We stopped at a dock which looked like it couldn't even support a ladybug's weight. Every step from my tiny feet would make a creak like a fox screaming. At the end of the dock was a door with an eye on it. Behind it seemed to lie more of the void, so I didn't even know if it led out. The ferryman gave me a look and spoke again.
Through this door, I can't reach you, nor can you reach me. You will be free, but trapped. I can't harm you, but I can hurt you. You will awaken, but never sleep. You will be home, but lost. Do you wish to go in, little girl?
I didn't feel like I had time to listen to his riddle, so I simply said to his sagged face, "Anything to get away from you, you bloated pig." He opened up the door and let out a chuckle. I couldn't see anything in there. As I stepped in, he kept saying,
Here, here, here.
As I stepped in, I noticed the floor felt like it was breathing. A light from the ceiling shined down, and on the ground were huge eyes. They blinked in pain as the light shined on their presumably ancient eyes. The flesh was a cherry red, and it slowly moved in some parts, but lay dead still in others. Veins would ripple through like water through the skin. The skin had bits where layers could be seen. The layers seemed to go on forever. The distance seemed to be close yet far, and the ceiling seemed to be impossible to reach. The light in the room got brighter and brighter until I could not see anything. I was blind. The music from before in this void got more and more distorted and pierced my ears. The eyes all dilated and stared at me. I felt a dread overcome me. As it was going on, the ferryman began to echo like thunder.
All hat, no cattle. All hat, no cattle. All hat, no cattle.
Stop! Stop! Stop it! I awoke in my bed. The light in the sky had a blue hue to it. For a second, I thought the whole house was underwater. I looked over to see if Hazel was awake. Maybe I was screaming in my sleep. But her little bed was empty. The flower on the little stand next to my desk had dried up, shriveled like a raisin. But it was just fine right before I went to sleep. I looked out my window and saw a tower that lay in the city near our hometown. It was never there before, let alone built in a few hours. I began to look around more, and the flower wasn't the only thing that died. The wallpaper looked damp. Parts of it were falling off like flakes. The corners had cobwebs that formed their little infinite pretty patterns. Suddenly, I heard a loud crying from the living room, and I knew that cry from anyone. It was Hazel. I tiptoed out and expected to hear Dad say, "Shh," or Mom patting Hazel on the back like she can't burp. but instead they stood in front of the TV. The TV was playing static, but the sound of laughter came from it. Hazel cried out in desperation.
Mommy, please, listen to me. Please.
Mom, can't you hear Hazel is... Hazel leapt up and wrapped around me like Christmas wrapping.
Ivy, Mom and Dad are...
She began to sob again and she collapsed onto the floor. I leaned over to see my parents' faces. Where once lied smiles and eyes, there was nothing. They had no face. It was just wrinkles. I joined in on Hazel's crying. I thought I held onto her so tight I might pop her like a zit. I felt her warm tears drip onto my pajamas, while my warm tears dripped onto hers. We laid there for what felt like ever, our parents forever still, ensnared in the TV's glow. After what felt like ages, I tore myself off of Hazel like a band-aid.
Ivy, what are we gonna do?
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Look around. Find something.
She looked at the ground, tears trickling down like waterfalls, the bottom of it forming on the dusty carpet. Her shaking hands beneath served as the trees around it. A pretty little lake right at her fingertips. I got myself up, and I just now noticed everything was taller. What would have once taken being on my tippy toes to grab was now miles above me. I felt like one of those little minikin kids at school. The ceiling felt like a sky, unreachable. I decided the best thing to do was to go to the neighbors and ask for help and see if they can see what's going on. I went to go, but the doorknob was out of my reach. Hazel?
Yeah?
I can't reach the doorknob. Can you give me a boost?
But you're taller. What about boosting me?
Sure, fine, just get over here. I lifted up her tiny little legs. She weighed more than I thought. She grabbed onto the knob and the door flew open. She let out a little yell of shock as it swung. What was once our little outskirt town at the edge of the city was now this rotten line of homes. Some windows were shattered. The front yards were like jungles with trash mixed in. One house even had a car rammed into it. The air was cold and windy. The trees swayed west and east as the wind rolled over in its slumber. Hazel shook and turned to me.
It's too cold. Can we wear our hoodies?
I agreed. It was way too cold. I went to go get our clothes, and thankfully they shrunk with us. But now they were out of reach. I boosted up Hazel like I did with the doorknob so she'd get on the coat hanger and grab them. But unfortunately, she ripped up our hoodies while she pulled them down. The hood on Hazel's hoodie was ripped off, and the arms on mine got torn off. I always wrapped my hoodie around with its arms and let the torso dangle out. It made it easier to see my hoodie while everybody else stacked it like a normal hoodie. All I had to do was just yank it off and then just finagle it till it was on. I didn't have to try to go through 3 other hoodies to find it. But because of that, now the arms were completely torn off. Hazel put on her hoodie and began to cry.
Mom got this hoodie. She told me it'd keep my pretty face clean.
Without even thinking, I just hugged her. She let out some sniffles, but not a cry like I thought she would. We had one last glance at Ma and Pa, their backs turned and necks hunched to stare at the blue glow of the TV. The TV forever playing their favorite memories and shows, as they lay in a still bliss, a bliss no dream can recreate. We walked over to our neighbors. It felt longer due to the world growing around us. The sky was blue as the tower seemingly trapped the sky. The tower had a pinkish light glowing at its top. I couldn't help but feel like it somehow caused the world to be like what it is. But how did everything decay so fast? Hazel looked at the ground as we walked to our neighbors. They were Mr. and Mrs. Arbor. Mr. and Mrs. Arbor were kind folk. They were a little older than Ma and Pa. They would help us out and would often stop by for Thanksgiving. Ma's grandparents didn't like her, and Pa's grandparents died in a car crash. So, them and their friends were the only people that stopped by at Thanksgiving. Me and Hazel repeated our little door game. Stick my hands out, Hazel steps onto it. Grab the knob, the door opens. Just from the entrance alone, the house was visibly decayed. The stairs leading to their bedroom had collapsed as a TV sat in the debris. A static was heard from the kitchen. Hazel went to investigate it as I went to the living room. Where a TV was, it was now gone. The couch was a stained color, looking like it had been watered like a garden. The potted plants in the room bent down like a hunchback, and a horrible smell came from the kitchen that Hazel went to. It made me let out a slight gag. Their family photos hung on the wall looked dried or withered. The colors had dried out, and the nail holding it up was rusted. How did the world decay so fast in such a small amount of time? I don't get it. How could this have happened? Did the ferryman's offer cause this? What could have happened? I was snapped out of my trance as I heard Hazel screaming.
No! No! No!
I ran as fast as I could into the kitchen. I feared Hazel was gonna get hurt. I feared that a creature that we hadn't even known was gonna grab her and hurt her. Or worse. Did those things look away from the TV? Were they gonna hurt her? I leapt over small debris and folds in the carpet. What would have just been a minor incline I'd easily step over was now like a roadblock. I finally made it to the kitchen. And Hazel wasn't hurt, but crying at a sight. The Arbors, too, stood in the glow of a TV, sitting in their kitchen sink. Their faces now gone, with the skin to now cover it. I, too, collapsed to my knees and sobbed. We were truly alone, and we had no one we knew to help us. We went through more houses. Each of them was just one of the same thing. No one was there, or if they were there, they were glued to the TV with their missing, distorted faces. Eventually, after the 7th one, Hazel began to just cry uncontrollably. Hey, Hazel, calm down. It's gonna be okay, alright?
I just can't. I can't, Ivy. I can't.
Shh. We'll find...
Mom is dead. Dad is dead. Everyone in town is a monster. I can't take this.
Shh. Shh. Look at me. Look. Let's go back home, get our backpacks, and find normal people.
But what if there's no normal people left?
There has to be. We can't be the only 2 people left.
I just...
Listen to your big sister. I'll protect you from whatever hurts you. Nothing will hurt you as long as I'm standing next to you. I'll guard you like a wood duck.
I want Mommy and Daddy back. They always made me feel safe whenever I was near them. Nothing bad ever happened. I don't feel safe.
I'll protect you just as much. I'll keep you safe, alright? I miss Mom and Pa too. I do too. But we need to keep going. Mom and Pa wouldn't be happy if we just gave up. So let's make them happy even if they aren't around anymore. Hazel looked at the dirt for a little bit and looked back up. When we go home, can I take my teddy and a photo of Mommy and Daddy? Sure thing. We'll get our rucksacks, and you can take those things with you. Come on, let's go. We took a walk that felt like forever. As we walked, I noticed the sky hadn't changed. It was still as blue as when I woke up. Why? But I put that beside me. That was the least of my worries right now. I need to find normal people and make sure my sister's okay. We walked in, and I tried not to look at Ma and Pa, but I did. I felt tears hit my cheeks as we walked into our room. We got some things for our rucksacks. I got some canned food, some water bottles, and a lighter. Hazel got some food and water too, but brought her teddy bear and an old family photo and a paper bag. I didn't understand why until I heard scissors cutting into it. What are you doing, Hazel?
Making a hoodie. See?
The bag was a bit larger than her. She cut into the edges of the top and made a large hole in the side. Her face poked out the sides, and the cut top rested on her shoulders. It reminded me of one of those old pilgrim hoods that people would wear. She let a grin shine through the hole until her eyes met Ma and Pa's backs. Then it broke into a frown. I noticed, and I went up to her. Shh. They're somewhere better now, Hazel. It's okay.
I still just... Ivy, can we stay the night here?
Are you sure? 'Cause they're right. I'm too scared to go. I don't want to leave yet. I'm really scared. We either gotta get moving, or we stay here and have to...
Well...
Please, Ivy, please. I don't want to look at Ma and Pa, Hazel. I want to get away from them because I hate looking at them. I collapsed onto the ground and sobbed. I just want to wake up. I had a nightmare and now I'm here. And I want to wake up. I don't want to have to look at them because I feel sick. I just know that I'll never see Ma and Pa the same way again. They're gone. And I just... Hazel ran up and hugged me. Her fingernails dug into my hoodie like needles into skin. She whispered to me into a soft tone I'd never heard her use before.
I don't want to see you cry, Ivy. 'Cause when you cry, I don't feel safe. I feel even more unsafe. If you want to go, we can go, okay?
I'm sorry for yelling at you.
No, I get it. I don't want to look at them either. It hurts to look at them. If you want to leave, can we at least rest in one of the empty houses?
Sure thing. I'm sorry.
It's
for
okay,
yelling.
Ivy. I'll look after you too, okay?
Sure thing. Hazel?
Yeah, Ivy?
When will we wake up?
Soon. I hope.